It's Thursday, March 23rd, and this is Geeknights. Tonight we talk about South Park and Futurama.
Let's do this!
So, as you all may have noticed, the hosting is down, or was down for several hours today, at least.
Yeah, it's so pleasant when this happens, you know? It just makes my life terrific.
Yeah, well, it has nothing to do with me. It's all Scott at the hosting. So, if you have complaints, send them to him where he'll ignore you.
Yep, and I'm working on it. You know, I noticed before anyone else noticed, so no amount of yelling at me is going to make it fix sooner.
Damn it, Scott. Fix it.
You know what? Now I'm going to go slower.
All right, that hurts you just as much as it hurts me, because your blog and everything's up there, too.
I don't care. So people won't miss it. It's not like, it's the end of the world. Scott's blog isn't online, and the podcast website isn't there. Woo!
Anyway, you had some things you wanted to say before I started with the news?
Oh, yeah, all week I've been trying to remember to tell everyone about, we got the Frapper map, frapper.com/frontrowcrew, where you put a little push pin on the map to say where you are. So, you know, it'd be cool if everyone did that. Also, we have a separate feed for each day now, and when the blog comes back up, you can go to frontrowcrew.com, and there's a little how-to with links to all the separate feeds, and the links to separate feeds are on the right side of the page, in case you only want to subscribe to maybe just Thursday or just Monday or something.
Yeah, even though I'd recommend that you subscribe to all days for various reasons.
Yep. The forum is there when the site comes back up, which everyone should join and have a lot of fun talking in.
Yeah, even though we just started a fairly awesome thread that got killed by the fact that the forum's currently down.
Yeah, it's just terrific.
Yeah, and thanks to all you people who keep messaging me telling me it's down. I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Of course, you won't hear this until much later when it comes back up.
Well, actually, you can't hear it until it comes back up, because unless I make my own RSS feed on Libsyn, there's no way for us to put the episode up, even though putting the episode up has nothing to do with the site other than the fact that WordPress makes the RSS.
Yeah, couldn't we just, go tell FeedBurner to add a link or something?
No.
Damn. Oh, well, whatever.
I might make a backup RSS feed on Libsyn just so I'll be able to put up episodes even if the hosting goes down.
That might be a good idea.
So then the only people who are fucked are the people who don't subscribe and just go to the site.
Well, actually, the only people who are complaining right now are people who use the forum, right?
Yep.
And people who actually visit the website, which is a small percentage.
And all the people on our Jabber server who got pissy after...
The Jabber's working now.
Yeah, it's working now, but it went down and knocked them all off.
Yeah, it did. There's nothing I could do about that.
But in the news, Nintendo made two very, very interesting and happy announcements at GDC.
Yep. The first one is Zelda DS.
The Phantom Hourglass.
It's always the something, you know?
The first one was just The Legend of Zelda. Then it was The Legend of Zelda. Oh yeah, The Adventure of Link.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, they always add something.
Well, they'd better add something.
Ocarina of Time. You know, it's always some object, and then the object has some power.
Minish Cap.
Yeah, it was a hat, and it was Minish.
that word doesn't mean anything.
It was a made-up word. It doesn't matter. The Wind Waker. It was this wand that waked the wind, you know?
Yeah. Anyway, this game looks... I mean, you can download a trailer previewy thing.
Yeah, there's a video floating around the net you can go look at if you want to.
I'm excited. I just hope this game's good, unlike the Minish Cap, which was disappointing, to say the best.
Yeah, it looks like it's some sort of in-between 3D, 2D kind of game, but mostly it's in the style of the awesome portable Zelda games. But there's some stylus-type puzzles going on in a few of the rooms, and it looks generally awesome.
I'm also really hoping, and I'm reasonably certain that there will be some sort of cool wireless multiplayer. Even if it's not a full-on game, I can imagine something.
They really just put Four Swords DS out. I mean,
that'd be fantastic. Well, I know they keep saying that Crystal Chronicles DS is going to come out, but...
Yeah, we'll see about that.
Yeah, it's still at the bottom of GameFAQs on the announced but no date list.
Great. The other announcement is that the Revolution, we all know it's going to have some old-school Nintendo games for you to download and emulate and all that.
Yep, NES, SNES.
Now it's going to have, officially, there's going to be some Genesis and some TurboGrafx games.
Now, they said that it's not going to be every game, but I think the words they used were a best-of compilation.
So, Bonk's Adventure is a guarantee.
Yep. Maybe
Bonk,
the
bonk.
original TurboGrafx 16 Bomberman.
Or R-Type.
Ooh.
Because TurboGrafx 16 is pretty much just an R-Type machine. As far, you know. And there's a cool racing game I forget the name of.
Yeah, there's a bunch of cool racing games, actually.
Yeah.
Beach volleyball wasn't that bad.
There's a really good volleyball for the NES, Super Spike V-Ball.
Yep. Actually, I got a guy at work who has a TurboGrafx 16. It's the most modern gaming console he owns, other than the DS he bought for his daughters.
Wow.
I went over there and played some awesome racing game. I forget
like
what it was
how
called.
the games for the TurboGrafx 16 are like these little plastic cards.
Yeah. And how a lot of them are 5-player.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, what the hell? I mean, it's not 4 like every other game system ever. I mean, the Atari was even 4-player.
Yep. I don't get it, but whatever. TurboGrafx 16 is cool. I like how it had turbo on the controllers. That was something else, too.
Yep, you couldn't call it cheating if it came with it.
You know what I remember about the TurboGrafx 16 is a long time ago when it came out, the mall had like this event. Like, they came to the mall with like 1 million kiosks of TurboGrafx 16 machines and filled the hallways and handed out videotapes so that would like demonstrate the software to you and all this sorts of crazy stuff. And like, I never heard of this thing before until I went to the mall and saw it. And then after that, no one ever bought one. It was just this thing that happened at the mall one day.
Yeah.
It wasn't, if it was like a new Nintendo.
I never knew anyone back in the Nintendo days who had one.
The only people I knew who had one were like my rich, distant cousins, and I went to their mansion once and played it, and that was that.
Now, we did have a friend who had a Neo Geo.
Neo Geos are cool.
Yeah.
But they're really only cool if you're in Japan where they have all the Neo Geo arcade machines.
I just remember when the kid was telling me how much each game cost. And I remember wanting to just cry because I wasn't rich.
Yeah, the whole point of the Neo Geo was supposed to combine the arcade and the home experience. So, like, you would go home and practice King of Fighters, and then you would go to the arcade with your memory card and play King of Fighters against people. That was the point of the Neo Geo.
Yeah, the problem was it was hellishly expensive.
Yep. Oh,
Now,
well.
Yeah. But in actual, as in non-video game news, Internet Explorer has another horrible, critical rootkit security hole.
Great.
It's unpatchable. It appears in every version of Internet Explorer currently in use, all the way up to and including the most recent beta of IE7.
It really is in the IE beta whatever?
Yes, it's in beta 2 of IE7. That's
like the newest. I can't believe it. There's a bug. That means that they didn't completely rewrite IE from scratch and they made beta 7.
Yep.
Wow.
It's a horrible bug. Apparently, it's been well known among script kiddies and elite hacker loser types for the last 40 or 50 days. And someone just discovered this in a forum where people were talking about exploits they've written using it. And he posted it to some full disclosure list.
Okay, so if you're still using Internet Explorer, what's wrong with you? You know what? No, if you're using Internet Explorer and something happens to your computer, you have no one to blame but yourself. Firefox is free. If Firefox wasn't free, you could have an excuse. But no, it's free.
Yeah, so is
free,
Opera.
Free.
Opera. Mozilla.
And Firefox works on old shitty computers, too. So what the hell? Everyone use Firefox, damn it.
Yeah, or something.
Yeah, come on. What the hell?
Now, I have it on good authority that Microsoft has known about this for at least a month. And no patch has come out yet.
Well, it's because they only patch on, like, the second Tuesday of the month. It's always called Black Tuesday.
Yeah, except the last time something like this came out for IE, they released that patch early.
They really should. How severe is this vulnerability? Is it like, I can root your computer and all you have to do is visit my website?
I saw the 3 words that I always see, and these are the words that always scare me when I see them in any sort of bug list. Remote code execution.
At administrator level or not?
The advisory I read doesn't actually say if it's run as administrator or not, but noting that 99% of all Windows users are always logged in as administrator, I'm fairly confident that it is a administrator remote code execution.
Well, I'm also fairly confident that if you can remotely execute code at user level, that there's some other exploit somewhere that you can take advantage of to promote to administrator.
Yeah, at least in Windows. Linux is definitely better about that.
Yeah, in Linux, there's pretty much no way you can promote to administrator unless you grab a user who's like in the wheel group or something.
Yep. Or
if anyone has a decent password, that's not going to happen.
Yeah. Or, if you just socially engineer your way into root.
Yeah.
That's really the best way to hack Linux. Just get to know some nerd who admins a Unix server out there and steal his password.
Oh, there's other ways to hack Linux, though, like wait for someone to use a really old version. Oh, the hosting's back up. I fixed it.
Ha ha!
Hooray.
Yeah, so any of you who are smart out there can correlate the two and figure out exactly when we recorded this episode.
How would they figure out when we recorded the episode?
Because they could listen, and then they'd know that we mentioned that the hosting just came back up. Then they could look and see when the hosting came back up.
How would they find out when it came back up?
Because they're obviously sitting there, hitting F5 every 3 seconds, waiting desperately for Geeknights to come back because their life has no meaning without it.
Oh, Geeknights is that good? Awesome.
And the answer to that riddle was 9:47 p.m.
Yay.
Eastern Standard Time.
Oh, my clock says 9:45. Must be off.
Yeah. Mine syncs up to the atomic clock.
Well, let this be a lesson to everyone. Mod PHP doesn't take that long to recompile, even if your processor sucks.
Yeah, so if you ever host a popular podcast and you accidentally update something and it breaks something, you can recompile it fairly handily.
Yeah, it seemed to be what happened was the configuration file for mod PHP had updated or possibly not updated. The configuration file that updated didn't match the library that updated. It must have stopped because I paused it, right? And then the server went down, then I restarted. So I must have paused it in between updating the library and the configuration file. So remerging it fixed both of those things.
Yeah. Actually, now that I think about it, I paused something once a while. Like, it was Firefox when I compiled Firefox instead of using the bin, and I gave myself a whole shitload of trouble.
Here, let's give everyone a little handy Linux tip from Scott. Ready?
All right, Linux tips from Scott. If we had music, we'd play it.
Okay, when you're using Linux, let's say you type in a command and then it starts doing a lot of stuff and it takes like 10 minutes and text is flying by in your terminal. Well, you really don't want to sit there and wait. You want, and you need to use your computer for something else and it's slowing your whole computer down. You push Control-Z. This will give you your terminal back and it'll say stopped. What it will do is it will stop doing whatever it was doing, and now your computer, you can go about your business. Of course, it's still sitting in RAM. Whatever, who cares? Now you can do what you were going to do on your computer, watch a video or whatever that, can't be slowed down by some background compiling or whatever.
Yep.
Then when it's nighttime and you can go let it finish doing its thing.
Since nighttime is the right time.
Nighttime is the right. You go back into that terminal and you press FG for foreground, and you press enter. And that will start it up again. So that's how you pause and restart things in Linux. Can't do that in Windows. Not at all. That's not even an option. Even if you're the God administrator, you can't do that.
Well, some applications have that built in.
Some do. Think of it like when you have your DS and you close the lid on a game and then open it again.
Yep. Except imagine if you could close the lid on the DS and then there was another screen on the outside and you could use that.
Yeah. That's kind of what it...
The analogy breaks down.
It really does. But you're basically pausing a program, so the program doesn't use your CPU or anything, but it still sits in RAM exactly the way it was when you paused it, and then you could bring it back from the dead if you need, So if someone... That's all it is.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, I'll just say this. What do you guys think of that? Do you guys want us to periodically just give random tips for, say, Linux or computing in general?
Yeah, that's an idea I just came up with 2 seconds ago.
Yeah, I mean, short ones,
I could
just
do
like that.
I could do a whole episode of Linux tips from Scott.
Yeah, but I don't think anyone wants to listen to a whole episode because anyone who would be interested in that probably already knows most of them.
Especially, I know at least 2 of our listeners, or at least 2 of my friends who I know probably listen at least once or twice, if not every time, know more about Linux than I do. I'm like the 3rd most knowledgeable Linux person I know. So they would probably occasionally yell at me for getting something wrong or doing something an even worse way or something like that. So
Yeah, but if you guys like it, we'll just periodically sprinkle little Linux tips in.
Yeah, could be fun.
If anything, for those of you who maybe don't use Linux, might be interested in it just starting, it'll be a nice little, oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, plus there's a lot of things in Linux where, like, I know one piece and I know another piece, but I never put the pieces together to, like, do something awesome.
Yep, if you're new to Linux, wait till you realize just what you can do with pipes.
Yeah, I mean...
But that'll all be for another day.
It will be. God, okay, yeah, finally found something we can go on and on about.
So, my thing of the day, since we were talking about Nintendo and a little bit about Nintendo Wi-Fi, as you all know, Metroid Prime Hunters came out recently.
So did Tetris DS. Woo!
Now, we just went to the Nintendo Wi-Fi site for Tetris, and it is the highest of high, oldest of old school quality website.
Well, you know the Tetris DS, the big thing about it is a bunch of different Tetris modes, and each mode has a theme from a different old school Nintendo game. Like there's a mode that goes with Donkey Kong, and a mode that goes with Mario, and a Zelda mode, and whatever modes. It's cool.
Now, that's not my thing of the day. I just noticed that. My thing of the day is that Nintendo Wi-Fi keeps track of who's doing well in all the games.
Oh yeah, in Mario Kart they only kept track of like who played the most, and you could see that, but it seems like they learned their lesson from Mario Kart. And
yeah.
In Metroid they have like most headshots, most consecutive kills, winning percentage, all sorts of other great stats that actually mean something.
Now, the leaderboard, it shows who is winning in all these stats. And there's one player who is obviously the best player at this game currently because he is winning 4 of the categories.
What 4 categories does he have?
He has points, games played, consecutive wins, and headshots.
It sounds like this guy's playing a whole lot, and he's mastered hitting headshots.
Yep, though I point out that there is a person, a Nintendo of America guy, who has a 100% kill rate.
It sounds to me like that guy played one game and won, and then didn't play any other games.
You know what? If I win,
since he's a Nintendo of America guy, obviously he made his account before anyone else. So probably because he has the earliest account, his name shows up.
Yeah, if that's true, I could see Nintendo saying, "All right, you have to play a game until you lose."
Or they don't really care.
Anyway, my thing of the day is not that this exists or any of that. No, it's something much more base and lowbrow.
I'm quite lowbrow.
So the guy who's winning these 4 categories, his name in the game is I Eat Poo.
That's a pretty typical name for an online FPS type of action.
Yeah. Usually, though, the people who have those kinds of names don't do very well.
Oh, no, they do quite well sometimes.
Yeah, it depends on the game. I mean, in natural selection...
I can tell you, in Counter-Strike, there have been quite a few Osama bin Ladens that successfully bombed the... I think what's funny about it is that it's Nintendo, and it's a bad, somewhat dirty thing, but it's on a Nintendo website. I mean, if the guy could have named himself Fuck, and that would have showed up on the Nintendo website, that would be awesome.
Yeah, you know what, though? I think I like the I Eat Poo, because it's definitely a level of humor where everyone can appreciate that. Everyone likes a good poop joke.
Oh, of course. Except for when it's you doing the pooping. Then you don't like it.
Yeah, like you this morning.
Yeah, I had some pooping problems.
Yeah, Scott's got some bowel issues.
Damn my bowels. That's what I get for having the rest of my body being so incredibly perfect, is a messed up bowels.
Anyway, what's your thing of the day? Even though I already know, I'm just asking because it's a nice segue.
So, there's this Flash game called Don't Shoot the Puppy.
It's harder than you'd think.
So the way this game works is there's a puppy. And there's a giant freaking piece of artillery, like a howitzer or some shit, right? And it's pointed right at the puppy. And there's this sign with a smiley face, and there's some words, and the words say, start. So if you click on the words that say start, the words that say start disappear, and the puppy begins to walk away from the gun and towards the sign with the happy face. That's all well and good. If you give any input whatsoever, because look, you just click start, which means the focus of your mouse is the Flash game, which means if you move the mouse, it'll know. If you push a button on your keyboard, it'll know. Anytime you give any input to this Flash game whatsoever, the gun fires, and if the puppy is in front of the gun, it dies. So then you lose if you move the mouse. So you basically click start and then don't do anything, and you wait until the puppy gets off screen.
So it starts out, the first round 1, the puppy just walks off the screen.
In round 2, it walks a little slower to make it more frustrating so that you might click or move the mouse. In round 3, it pops up a fake pop-up window that I fell for the first time. And, this pop-up window shows up and you go to click X, but as soon as you move the mouse, the puppy dies. And you go, damn it! So basically, you just have to resist doing any sort of input whatsoever for as many levels as possible. I was only able to do it for about 3 minutes, which is like 6 levels.
My favorite 2 levels is there's one level where the puppy's walking slowly, and someone throws a ball at it, and it walks over, picks up the ball, and slowly walks off the screen. No big deal. The next level, the ball, you see it go flying from the left of the screen way off to the right where the gun is, and then past off the screen. And the puppy very slowly starts walking to the right away from the gun off screen. and then like a minute later makes his way back and starts walking across in front of the gun again.
Yeah, but you can feel free to do input while the puppy is to the right of the gun because you can't shoot him over there. At least the game isn't that stupid where the gun would, flip over and kill him. But yeah, I think if you just waited long enough, every level would give you something new and humorous, but I don't know how many levels there are or how many I could stand to sit through.
See, I like games like this. It's the same kind of game as the old classic Pick Up the Phone Booth and Die.
Yeah, it's a great game.
If any of you out there have ever actually played Pick Up the Phone Booth and Die...
It's a text adventure.
Yeah, it's very simple. We'll play it right now. I'll be the computer and Scott can be the player.
All right.
I'll do a simplified version.
No, we'll start with blank. Look.
You see a phone booth.
Open phone booth.
You open the phone booth.
I thought you couldn't open it and pick up the phone booth and die.
I don't remember.
Anyway.
I haven't actually played Pick Up the Phone Booth and Die.
I played it once. Anyway.
All I know is that if you type Pick Up Phone Booth, it says you die.
And any other sort of things that you might attempt might yield humorous results, but the game won't go anywhere. You'll still be standing there in front of that phone booth. Like, you can make a call, but it just says something funny on the screen. It doesn't actually do anything. But the only thing you can actually do to get the game to go anywhere is pick up the phone booth, and that's all it does is kill you. That's it. That's the whole game. All right.
So today is Thursday, meaning we can talk about whatever the hell we want.
Awesome. What the hell do we want to talk about?
See, honestly, we really didn't know until just a little while ago. We were trying to think of something nice that didn't require a lot of research or effort.
Mm-hmm.
And coincidentally, South Park. Now, you all know that Isaac Hayes, the noted Scientologist and nutball, was
stroke victim.
Yeah, was the voice of Chef. And after they did their expose on Scientology, he left the show, and then they got in trouble and weren't allowed to show that episode anymore for some shady dealings that the internet is still trying to figure out.
Yeah, the internet is like, oh, maybe Tom Cruise used his Mission Impossible 3 muscle to prevent, or maybe... They're like, Isaac Hayes is still, he didn't really quit. The Scientologists quit for him because he had a stroke. He's in no condition to quit anything, and blah, 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 blah. It's just a bunch of crazy batshit, which is what I expect from the Church of Scientology.
Now, the South Park guys decided that, they're going to handle this situation in the only way they know how. So the episode 1 of the newest season came out just now.
Let's spoil the whole thing.
All right, we can spoil
because the internet
it.
does it anyway.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I mean, spoilers for South Park. Yeah, Kenny dies.
Yeah, you know what? You know what they call a Jewish woman's boobs?
That was the most random throwaway joke I've ever heard in my life.
What do they call a Jewish woman's boobs?
I don't know, Scott. What do they call them?
Jubes.
Actually, I loved in the beginning of the episode when they're sitting there playing Uno, and it's just like, draw 2, fat ass, reverse Jew. And they just, yeah.
Yeah, reverse to Jew.
But anyway, they basically set it up where Chef was brainwashed by this crazy cult. And they used the audio from previous South Park episodes to create the episode so that it sounded like Isaac Hayes was still there.
Mm-hmm.
And basically they made Chef a pedophile and such, and then they killed him.
Well, it was pretty interesting because the only things that Chef really does when he's in an episode, even in the early South Park, which is what I mostly watch, is he talks to the children, and he talks about making love to women. In fact, there's this whole song, I want to make love to you, woman, that he sings all the time. So they took that song, and they made an episode where Chef wants to make love to the children, because that's the easiest thing they can get him to say with the dialogue available.
Now, the best part of the episode was that this episode was in direct response to the whole Scientology debacle. And what they did is, basically, they made up this new crazy cult that they called something else that had nothing to do with Scientology. And then it got to the point where they're going to explain what this cult is about. And for those of you who saw their Scientology expose, they basically show the whole story of Xenu and all that Scientology crazy batshit BS. And then during it, they start flashing the words on the screen, this is what they actually believe.
Mm-hmm. That's the one you laugh hysterically, because it's all true. Absolutely true.
Now, this episode did the exact same thing, only with this made-up cult, and it was obvious that they were just talking about Scientology. The going theory seems to be that Comedy Central refused to allow them to say the word Scientology in this episode.
I wish people would just be more transparent. I mean, if someone muscled you into doing something, they should say they did it, and you should say they did it. I'm tired of people doing things all secrety and leaving the internet to guess.
Yeah,
it's like someone's got to have some nuts and just be some, open.
No one has nuts anymore. There's no such thing as cojones, mojo, moxie in the world.
Wait,
it's all
what's-
gone.
They looked they looked in their pants and they saw their own testicles. So awesome.
But anyway, by watching this episode, we thought, all right, we'll talk about American animated shows that we've liked. Modern ones, not like Ninja Turtles or Mask or GoBots.
Pretty much there's only 4 shows that fit in this category. It's South Park, Futurama, Family Guy, and The Simpsons.
Well,
2 of which are made by the same guy and 3 of which are on Fox.
Yep. Actually, I would throw the Critic in there, too.
Oh, the Critic kind of
Everyone
works.
forgets the Critic.
Critic's a little old. Duckman's also a little old.
I love Duckman. I could do a whole show on Duckman.
Could you really?
Yeah, I watched Duckman religiously when
I didn't
was
watch
young.
enough of it because it was on kind of late.
I watched it. The thing is, as my parents started seeing what the show was about, they were kind of leery of me watching it because I was a young kid. And I remember the one time I watched it in my grandparents' house. And
Good job.
my grandma's sitting there watching it. My grandpa's laughing hysterically. And my grandma's just like, I don't think he should be watching this.
What about, does Beavis and Butthead count? Does,
Honestly, I watched Beavis and Butthead off and on, but I didn't really like it that much. However, the movie, I think, was actually an excellent piece of film.
well, everyone thinks the movie was excellent, but the movie was also just a vehicle to push some hit music of the time.
Yeah, but so was Beavis and Butthead.
Yeah. Well,
But
Beavis and Butthead didn't really push hit music. It pushed like this crap metal and shit that no one cared
Hey,
about.
they like Guar.
Yeah.
I like Guar.
Yeah.
Guar!
Yep.
Guar?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Cornholio.
So anyway, today we're going to talk about South Park because, I don't know, whatever. We can talk about whatever we want.
Mm-hmm.
And then Futurama because we actually just rented in Netflix all of Futurama that's ever come out in order
Oh, wow.
to kind of fill in the gaps that we've missed over the fact that the show's gone. Like, gone.
All right, so what's the best episode of South Park ever?
See, that's a really tough... For me, it would have to be that the spoof they did on the Lord of the Rings.
Oh, for me, it's the one where Cartman makes the kid eat his parents.
I made you eat your parents.
I made you eat your parents.
Now, well, a little bit of history of South Park. It came out pretty much just as we were going into high school.
Yeah, like late middle school times for us. But the story is they made some like goofy little like thing about a snowman or something. It was like they literally cut out construction paper and made this show that was like 10 minutes long. You could find it
Not
on
even that. It's so short and crappy.
Yeah, you could find it on the internet somewhere. It's short and shitty.
Then they made a second episode, Jesus versus Santa.
Yep.
And that was the thing that basically catapulted them into actual stardom. Because after that, they were approached and, hey, make us a show.
Mm-hmm. Nowadays, people make shit like that on the internet all the time, and no one approaches anyone for a show. The thing is they made this little cardboard cutout thing before people were making things like that every 5 minutes, and they made it like with effort and such, and it was actually funny.
Yeah, though it was very... I mean, the show, like The Simpsons and every other show like this, started out very differently until it found its kind of groove. I mean, The Simpsons, for those of you who might forget, was about Bart when it started. It was all Bart.
And then it was Homer jokes, and then it finally, found the thing of, show a plot and give a message.
Yep.
And
South Park was the same way. It started with a bunch of foul-mouthed kids swearing at each other.
Mm-hmm.
That was pretty much the whole show for an entire season.
And really just nasty stuff like poop jokes, poop, 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 poop.
Like, it was funny, but I think it was only funny in retrospect because I was in high school.
Yeah, I think the first episode that really people thought was hysterical was the Thanksgiving episode.
I actually remember that one.
Yeah, that was the point.
Yeah. But then as the show evolved, it actually started becoming, one, political, but not political in any particular direction. Just political and topical in general. And two, it pulled a Simpsons. Instead of just having it be about, the 4 boys and the crap, whatever jokes they always made, they expanded it and added all these other characters that used to be side characters in as main characters.
Yeah, well, I think what it is when you make a show in your early days, you're just trying to make your show, and you think real hard about it. But then eventually, over time, you get into a groove, and you develop a formula. And the formula is what allows you to keep making shows forever and ever. The thing is that if your formula is really good, you can keep making really good episodes forever and ever. Like Mushishi had a good formula, and I guess South Park has a good formula, and The Simpsons has a good formula.
Yep.
I mean, the South Park formula is pretty much like, something terrible happens, the boys go and basically say, wow, this is dumb,
Man, our parents have done some
They
stupid
don't
shit.
ever actually really do anything to fix it so much as just, go around and talk right to the idiots who are making the stupid things happen. And then somehow the stupid thing is resolved, and usually after some crazy event like, involving sex and violence or vomiting or some other hilarity. And then the episode's over and they teach you a lesson.
Now, when the show started, it really was quite literally just swearing and poop jokes.
Yeah.
And it wasn't very stimulating in any way other than on a very lowbrow level.
Yeah, and then they went into like some sort of sensationalist kind of crap old TV type of stuff. Like they made the Christmas episode and they introduced, they have like a Christmas poop. What was his name?
Oh, Mr. Hanky.
Yeah, Mr. Hanky the Christmas poo. That was it.
Yeah, they basically are trying to be the grossest, most sensationalist crap they could come up with.
Yeah, and then
this actually culminated in one of the most infamous practical jokes that has ever been played on television.
I was going to talk about it.
Oh, the Terrence and Phillip thing.
Yeah, so Cartman, if you don't know, one of the characters is Cartman, the fat kid no one likes, and he has a mom who's a whore, and his dad doesn't exist in the show.
Yeah.
So they were going to do this 2-episode thing and reveal his father in the second episode.
So they dragged it out to all hell. Like, dragged it out, and then they were, wasn't it like, all right, you'll have to find out, like, next season?
No, yeah, I don't know if it was next season or next episode or something, but what happened was they showed you an episode, and you were pretty sure that in the next episode they were going to tell you who his father was because they said so. The next episode they were about to tell you, and then they showed the whole episode was Terrence and Phillip farting at each other.
They literally just made this other cartoon and showed it for a half hour.
And then it was over, and they didn't tell you. And then the next week they fixed the result.
They actually got in trouble with Comedy Central over that.
Yeah.
I mean, they got complaints. People stopped listening, and the show actually lost a lot of viewers for a while.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they all probably, too, because they could find out what happened just by looking on the internet or something.
Yep.
Or watching the news.
Though not too long after that, the show actually got clever. And currently, in its current incarnation, I actually really enjoy it.
Yeah, it's like, for a while after that, I stopped watching, mostly because I stopped watching TV, not because I didn't like South Park anymore. But it's like I sort of forgot about it, and then, it's still around. I mean, the Chef episode just now was Season 10, Episode 1. Season 10. These guys have been doing this for 10 years.
Yeah.
10 years. All right, but yeah, now it goes into the formula that I described already, and that seems to be what every South Park episode is, and they're all pretty good.
And honestly, I mean, the guys who do it, they're smart. They've made some crap things before. But the thing is, I think they did it on purpose.
Yeah, the other thing is they seem to be able to really... A lot of cartoons can't be very topical. Like The Simpsons can't, talk about something that's going on right now.
The Simpsons was never any more topical than, like, Conan O'Brien was.
Yeah, it seems to be, most cartoons are timeless. Like, they kind of say general stuff, and they can't be very specific. South Park can be real specific, because I don't think it takes them very long at all to make one. They just made the Chef one in a few days, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, and I gotta say, I actually gained a lot of respect for them after they made the Scientology episode. And I recommend that anyone who hasn't seen it, because we've talked about it.
It's all over the internet.
Yeah, we've talked about it multiple times on this show. It's on Google Video. It's on YouTube.
Yeah.
I mean, because basically they were told, as far as anyone can tell by Comedy Central, to not ever show that episode again.
We don't know. Maybe they will. Maybe they won't.
But it's everywhere on the internet, and no one's doing anything about that.
Well, no one can do anything about it.
Yeah.
But the point is that Scientology is a crazy cult. Don't join it. And if you see a Scientologist, harass them. Harass them. Harass them. Harass them some more.
Now, the fact that South Park actually had the balls, they stood up, they made this absolutely scathing show about Scientology.
Oh, it's not scathing, it's just truthful.
Well, yeah, it's truthful, but it's also scathing.
100% truthful.
The truth hurts.
Yeah. There's nothing, what's the word?
Exaggerated?
Yeah, exaggerated or hyperbolic about it.
I mean, it was funny, and they're explaining Xenu, the alien, and then when those words, this is what Scientologists actually believe, started flashing on the site, I lost it. I just cracked up. I couldn't take it anymore.
Yep. Well, at least it informed a whole bunch of people who didn't know.
Yep, because I remember someone messaged me who listens to Geeknights right after we watched the episode and then talked about it, and they asked me, is that really true? And I had to respond with a link to Clambake.
Yeah.
Followed by the word yes.
Scientologists really believe in the Thetans and the evil alien overlord Xenu and the airplanes and the volcanoes and the whole thing.
I just liked the bit at the end where they basically just told, yeah, sue us. Come on, do it. Sue me.
Yeah. I think the deal was that the Church of Scientology, what they like to do is if you do something to make them look bad, they'll come and sue you. So it's sort of a deterrent. But South Park those guys are so smart. They wanted Scientology to sue them. That way they can make a lot of publicity about how Scientology is crazy. It was like, free anti-Scientology advertising if they actually got into a lawsuit.
Yep. I actually would have liked to see a lawsuit. That would have been hilarious.
More hilarious than the show. So let's talk about some more. The episode where Cartman makes this kid eat his parents. So
Scott Tenorman Must Die is another episode that I highly recommend. I mean, basically what we're doing now is if you saw South Park and knew it was crappy and poop jokes and stopped watching a long time ago, give it one more chance.
Yeah, so this episode, what happens is Cartman, who's a kid that deserves everything he gets, but these older kids who are like middle school or maybe even freshmen in high school or something start bothering him and picking on him, but he deserves it because he's Cartman, but who cares? They start making like jokes about him with like pubes. They're like, pubes.
Yeah, well, I just said that the show got clever and wasn't poop jokes anymore.
Yeah, it's still dirty, but there's something to it.
Yeah, it's very clever.
And then Cartman tries to get revenge and he doesn't. And he tries to get revenge and he doesn't. And then he tries to get revenge and it looks like he doesn't find again.
Yeah, they set up like this huge elaborate wow, Cartman's plan is huge and elaborate and we know it's going to fail because of information the show has given to us.
Yep. And then somehow Cartman's plan is like his final plan isn't completely stupid like all his previous plans. It's actually incredibly intelligent, and in the end he actually gets this kid, turns his parents into chili, and the kid ends up eating his own parents, and then the kid's favorite rock band comes and tells him he's a sissy for crying, and it's just insane. And
I guarantee it's actually funny, not just horrible like we just described.
It's funny because it's horrible.
Yep. I mean, I guess just give South Park a chance if you gave up on it a long time ago. It's clever and topical, and I enjoy it.
Yep, I also enjoy it.
Now, we also thought we'd talk today a little bit about Futurama.
Futurama's awesome.
Which is one of my favorite television shows, not including anime, ever.
Yep, and for anyone who doesn't know, we're 90% sure there are going to be 4 DVD-only movies of Futurama, new stuff that is going to be released in the future.
Which is fantastic, because all the voice actors and Matt Groening and everyone love Futurama.
Mostly because of Bender. It's all about Bender and his shiny metal ass.
His glorious golden ass.
His splintery wooden ass. Yeah.
So Futurama was done by, obviously, Matt Groening, the same guy who did The Simpsons.
Mm-hmm.
And the only at first the shows look very similar. They're done in a similar style, just, one's in the future and one's in Simpsons land.
Well, Futurama uses a lot more CG because it's in the future.
Yeah.
And it has a lot more pop culture jokes. And The Simpsons has more, society, human nature type of jokes.
Well, Simpsons used to. From what I hear, The Simpsons now is nothing but topical jokes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
Well, I haven't seen it recently.
I haven't seen The Simpsons in 4 years.
Yeah, we'll have to go check it out.
Yeah. But anyway, the show it's very similar, too, in terms of just the humor and the way it's set up, except that the characters are more real, more fleshed out. The show's not always funny. It's actually multiple times very serious or sad or heartwarming. And there's a plot. It is episodic. You can just watch random episodes, but there is a general, slowly advancing plot that kind of climaxes in the last episode.
Mm-hmm. It's not really a big plot. It's just sort of these things sort of connect, and then they make a story out of it.
Yeah, well, that and also just, it actually does kind of explore ideas of, what if you were frozen and came back in the far, far future and everyone you knew and loved was dead?
Yep. That's, yeah. And also, I like how it not only does it explore that, but it explores what would the future really be like of this world, and a lot of the things they do in the future is just silly, all kinds of crazy aliens and all kinds of drinking robots. It's funny stuff, but a lot of the stuff is like the famous people's heads in jars and stuff, and there's a lot of commentary on advertising, and
it's definitely realistic in the same way that Snow Crash was realistic. It's obviously hyperbole. But then again, you wouldn't put it past some people to try some of these things.
Yeah. The other thing a lot of Futurama episodes do that's really good is when they go to alien worlds that have crazy situations, so it really lets the creators do all sorts of crazy stuff. Crazy.
And of course, Bender.
Yeah, Bender.
Bender's my man.
I think the best episode of Futurama is the one where Bender's like floating in space and he becomes God because there's little Lilliputians living on him, and then he meets God for real. That's a good one.
Yep. Actually, that's a very good episode from a number of perspectives. It's funny, but it's also very poignant.
Yeah.
Serious, good, philosophical, interesting.
Yeah, it's not just like, some silly joke. It's actually like, oh, it's silly because, the people do something, but it's also, oh, look, that's what people do.
Of course, we can't talk about Futurama without mentioning the infamous dog episode.
Oh?
Remember the one where Fry finds the fossil of the dog that he used to have?
Nope.
All right, he finds this episode, for people who are fans of Futurama, it's widely known because the end is just so incredibly sad and unexpected. But he finds this fossil of his dog, and the professor says, oh, I can use my science to make a clone and bring the dog back. And Fry is so excited about this that he forgets about all his real friends, Bender. And I'm not really going to ruin the episode, but it just ends on just this sad, like there's not even a joke there. It's just sad.
I imagine the dog dies or something.
No, it's actually sadder than that.
Oh.
Like, basically, the show it's a typical episode. And then the end of the episode, while the credits are rolling, you realize that there's no joke coming. That they weren't making a joke, and it ends.
Uh-huh.
A lot of people have mentioned this episode when they talk about Futurama, so we could definitely not go without speaking of it.
Yeah. Let's talk about two of my other favorite episodes. There's the one where...
the Parabox?
Yeah. There's basically this box, and if you go in the box, it takes you to another dimension, or another universe. So what ends up happening is there's two different versions of all the main characters together. One from one universe A and another from universe B. And the only difference...
Fine, we're universe awesome.
Yeah. The only difference in universe A and B is that in universe B, every coin toss came up on tails instead of heads and vice versa. And that has some interesting results.
It's one of the most quotable episodes of Futurama ever.
That sure is, because the best part is where they're running through all these different boxes trying to find the Zoidbergs who ran away. The two Zoidbergs, yeah, great. Right, go Zoidberg. So all the other characters that aren't Zoidbergs are looking for the Zoidbergs, and the two Benders end up. One of them comes out of a box, and he's holding a pot full of gold, and he says, "Hey, see what I got from the Leprechaun universe?"
And the other Bender's like, "Leprechaun universe is well and good. If you haven't seen Pirate Universe."
And then he brings out this pirate chest full of gold and chalices and whatnot.
Faith and Begorra.
Yeah, Pirate Universe.
And just the scene at the end when they finally, they come out of the box, and they all pop out of the box into the incinerator where Hermes' finger is hovering over the button to destroy them all, because he was supposed to destroy the box. Long story short.
The box says no.
And they all pop up, and Hermes is sitting there with his finger on the button, and the professor's looking at him like, "Hermes, whatever you do, don't hit that button." And Hermes obviously sits there for 5 seconds considering before he decides not to.
Hermes is really the only guy in the show he's like the straight man. Sure he's not perfectly straight. I'm not talking about his sexuality. I'm talking about, in terms of Abbott and Costello, straight man and funny man. Yeah. He does the limbo, and it's funny, and he has a couple episodes dedicated to him, but he's mostly the only one who's intelligent and smart and not wacky.
Now, the other episode that we personally love and know is
Azuzu!
The one that ends with the words, "And that little one is how Papa gets freedom. And now, bon nuit. Bon nuit to you all."
Bon nuit.
It was just this random gargoyle-themed ending.
Yeah, so the episode is where at the beginning, the professor's dealing with this gargoyle, right? And then the gargoyle gets away.
Azuzu!
Right, and then the episode, something else completely different happens in the episode. There's a fountain of youth or something, and everyone falls into the fountain of youth, and while the professor is in the fountain of youth, he's like, "I curse Zoidberg."
Yeah, the professor's dying, and he just screams, "With my last breath, I curse Zoidberg." It's just the most random, asshole-ish act.
Yeah, and then it's if I was bleeding to death on the ground, and I said, "With my last breath, I curse Rim," and then I died. But then the gargoyle saves him from death. And it's, the gargoyle hadn't been there since early in the episode. So it's "Oh, the gargoyle's back." And then the gargoyle talks to his little baby gargoyle at the end of the episode. And he says, "And that little one is how Papa gets freedom." Bon nuit.
Bon nuit to you all. It also has, because the whole episode is about old age and old people. And they're going through this whole thing, and then they find, like, they're trying to get the gargoyle back for the professor. And the whole thing is like, he's not an old man, I'm still young, blah, blah, blah. And they finally, like, are tracking down the gargoyle, and they say something to him like, look, we're going to get your gargoyle. And he's like, my what?
My what?
My what?
My what?
My what?
And the way he says what is hilarious. My what?
Yeah, you can tell we're geeks. We fixate on the most, like, specific random bits of humor.
Yeah. That's how it is.
Though I can imagine that we'll be talking about Futurama more periodically and randomly for the next several weeks and months as we watch all of it again.
Probably what'll end up happening is as Bender says funny things, I'll just remember them and say them again.
Yep. Now, we were going to talk about The Simpsons and Family Guy and The Critic, but we've gone long enough today, so that means we just have fodder for another Thursday someday.
Awesome. Family Guy rules.
And last but not least, the hosting is, as we said earlier, up.
Woo!
So go to the forums.
I'm so awesome.
Haha.
Maybe now I can actually update it without breaking it.
We'll see.
We'll see if Papa gets freedom.
So, with that, bon nuit.
Bon nuit.
Bon nuit to you all.
And with the last bit of podcast, I curse Zoidberg.
And that was Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for our opening theme.
Be sure to visit our website at www.frontrowcrew.com. If you like our podcasts, you'll love our forums. Make sure you visit them. You can send your email feedback to geeknights@gmail.com. And if you want, you can leave us a voicemail at 206-333-1537.
Geeknights airs every weeknight, Monday through Thursday.
Geeknights is recorded with absolutely no studio and no audience. But unlike those other talk shows, it's actually recorded at night.